This is Sasha from iChongqing, and I'm connect with Jeanette in Vancouver right now. Jeanette is a lawyer and the consultant from UBC. And right now, Jeanette, I think you are under the self-quarantine at home right now, right?
Well, I wouldn't really call it a self-quarantine. So it is a lockdown per se. So everybody has to follow the rules of the government. So we are in the lockdown. So self-quarantine is referred to people who just came back from overseas and they have to stay at home for at least 2 weeks and they cannot go grocery shopping and things like that. So that's, I believe that's the most strict quarantine.
And to begin with, can you introduce a little bit more about the pandemic situation in Vancouver right now?
Things haven't been so bad in Vancouver. So right now in BC, we have a total of 1,500 cases. So the death toll is about 70, I think. So it hasn't been very bad in Vancouver, but that has something to do with the government's policy. So we've been in this lockdown for at least a month. So people have to follow the strict rules of social distancing and try to stay at home as much as possible. So it has something to do with the government policy and also has something to do with the large Chinese Canadian community here. We have been very cautious and very careful. And since the start, we have made a lot of efforts raising awareness around us. So we've been doing lots of important work and volunteer work, so on and so forth, to help out. So things are getting better. We are looking, we're actually positive, especially in this part of Canada, in the province of British Columbia. Things are definitely getting better. The curve has been flattened. So meaning that, the hospital system, the emergency system haven't been collapsed by the huge influx of patients and, with COVID-19. So things are not too bad, but it doesn't mean that, it's going to be like this forever or things could change suddenly. So we still have to be very cautious. And we always have to be on guard about this. Yes.
The whole reason that I invited you to this interview is because I saw your diaries that shared on social media. So that's very impressive. You as a overseas Chinese and help the local community and hospitals. Even I just heard about you are dealing with the about the policies and for the Chinese community. So can you tell us about what efforts have you made during this special period to support local hospitals and the neighbors?
Well, first of all, our efforts are like my efforts itself is kind of limited, but I'm so happy to see there are so many people joining the force and so many young people, a lot of Chinese Canadians that we're all trying our best to help. So for me, at first, even before the lockdown, I started an initiative in our building which is to collect masks for the elderly. And I don't know if like people in China understand this. Like the mask is something that in Western culture, it's something that you only wear when you're really sick, and you are protecting other people by wearing a mask. So only sick people would wear it. Lots of Canadians, they've never worn a mask in their whole life. So it's just unthinkable, right? And I mean, the government, at first, they don't encourage people to wear masks as well. They kept saying, right, only sick people need them, and, masks are for medical professionals, and if you wear them, they don't have them, and things like that, right? So, I mean, as Chinese, we have seen different stories, and, the critical thinking plays a part as well, right? So, I started calling for masks from my neighbors from all over China. I mean, I have lots of neighbors who currently stay in China. So I was asking them to mail some masks to us, because by the time we actually want to wear masks, people cannot find them in the market anymore, right? Especially the Westerners, they have no way of finding them. My neighbors in China, they're very generous. So they have been mailing me lots of personal protection equipment, like PPEs, including masks and gloves, and all sorts of things. They're very, very nice and generous. So for days and days, all my life is to wake up and receiving parcels. Like there's FedEx, there's Shunfeng, there is UPS, and open them and sanitize them, and then have them delivered, to the people that are in need, which is great, right? It's such a rewarding experience, especially like the neighbors, the elderly. They are really, really appreciative. I mean, people were resistant to wearing masks, but yeah, I think what I did is to talk to our council members first. One of them was a retired manager of Children's Hospital, and I mean, she understands what's going on, right? So she understands the importance to protect the elderly. So she spread the word, and then so all the people, the masks that are delivered were being used right away. So I'm really happy to see that, right? Because protecting your neighbors is like protecting yourself. And then because I received so many masks, I started thinking, there are more people who would need them. The essential workers in the neighborhood, the medical professionals, so they're all in need, actually. So we started collecting more and then donating more. Different kind of mask for different use. The better ones are for the hospitals. So yeah, it has been a very successful and rewarding experience. And I heard lots of other people are doing this. The Chinese Canadian Society, the lots of other NGOs. They are all trying their best to help with the situation. And that's why I think that's part of the reasons things in BC are not as serious as, say, like Quebec.
So for right now, what are your biggest concerns or worries about the ongoing outbreak in the world? And how should people address these issues?
My biggest worries and concerns is not only what happens in countries like Canada, but it's more it's more worrying in the developing countries, countries like Africa or countries like India. So when we say social distancing, that means that we have the luxury of keeping distance to each other, right? Like here at UBC, we're surrounded by the ocean and the forest. I can still take walks in the trail without having to bump into anybody. it's just such a luxury to have so much space. Whereas like in lots of countries, but people live in slums, and you just simply don't have them. And countries like India, I just heard from one of my friends whose family is being locked down in New Delhi for 3 weeks now, and sometimes they don't even have running water, right? So it is a privilege to have all these things. And countries like the States, they're trying their best to grab the resources, and they are all fighting for the PPEs. So what are the poor people going to do, right, in those countries? And I do believe that the virus, they they don't have a border, right? Like even if you're safe now, like say you're safe in Canada or you're safe in the States, but the virus will travel, right? So I my 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 solution, it's not really a solution, but I mean, it's just to advocate people to help each other out.
Can you share one or two most impressive stories during this pandemic?
Yeah, so like every day in Vancouver, and I think every part of Canada, at 7 o'clock in the evening, uh, people would, so older people would go to their balconies or their porches or their patios. They bring their pots and pans, and then they brought their music instruments, and they clap their hands. So we would make noises together to cheer up the medical professionals, the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, and just to make them hear our support. So I think that's a great thing to do, right? Because it happens every day. Every day, it's a great reminder for us, to how honorable and noble those medical professionals are doing to save lives. It's very inspiring for me every day.
So, do you have any difficulties during this period? For example, is there any shortage for the daily use?
For me, I wouldn't be affected too much because for my job is to help international students to come to Canada, and also help some university graduates who are international students to obtain their permanent residence, right? So there is always a demand there. And also, like right now, lots of applications are online application, right? Some of my applicants have never met me before. They're from the States, they're from China. They met me online, and then they started doing the application. It's an online application, and then even sometimes when they landed, I haven't even seen them before, right? So it really does not affect me that much.
My last question is, what's your vision on the government policies that may benefit people? Because we know there may be some layoffs or economic turn down after.
The Canadian government right now, the current party who runs the government is the Liberal. So compare with the Conservative parties, say like in the UK or the one in the States. This is like a relatively socially progressive government. So they have been doing the best they could to help people that are affected by this COVID-19 outbreak. So I believe the government claim that all the people that if their jobs are affected by COVID-19, they could get 8,000 Canadian dollars from the government. That includes international students who have worked, and people who are on work permit who are work permit holders, right? Like international students who got their postgrad work permit. It's really something that's quite unusual in this under the circumstances, because lots of countries, they only care about their own citizens and their own permanent residents, whereas Canada is helping all the people equally, which I see is very progressive. The government has initiated lots of temporary policies to help the business as well. There are tax reduction, there are business loans, there are wage subsidies. So it's just to help the industry that's affected the most to be able to recover in the future. As far as I'm concerned, this is going to be very detrimental to the global economy, not only to Canada or US. It's just the whole world might get into a big recession. So everybody has to be prepared, and especially right now in the service industry, right? Lots of people are getting getting laid off, and basically any people who has to provide in-person services is affected. Like even lots of law firms, they're laying off their lawyers. I have a friend who is a divorce lawyer, and he said, I don't have any cases anymore. It is serious, right? For lawyers and basically anybody in service industry. uh, it's a huge economic downturn there. Yeah.